There was a moment you knew, not later, then, before the proof arrived, before anyone else even saw it. And the first thing you did with that knowing was talk yourself out of it. The checkpoint has watched this cargo cross the station more often than almost any other. Not the obvious lies, not the public betrayals. The checkpoint is talking about the small signal that arrived months before the damage. The signal does not announce itself. It is quieter than that. A sentence that did not match the rest of the sentences. A pause that lasted half a second too long. A feeling in your chest after a normal phone call you could not explain. You noticed, and then you explained it away. The checkpoint has seen the documents people use to wave the signal through. They look like reasonable thoughts. They feel like good faith. I am being too sensitive. Stamp. They are just stressed. Stamp. I do not want to be the kind of person who jumps to conclusions. Stamp. Every one of those is a passport. Everyone looks clean enough to pass. Most people never notice this. The passport is not the lie. The passport is the speed. You did not investigate the signal. You processed it in under a second. Before the feeling could become a question, you turned it into a verdict. Here is what the checkpoint needs you to understand. The reason you wave it through that fast is not because the signal is weak. It is because the signal is strong, and what it is asking you to do is expensive. If the signal is right, you have to act. Ask the hard question. Leave the conversation. Lose the comfort of not knowing. So the mind makes a trade. It takes the certainty of staying over the cost of confirming. That is the false passport. Here is what happens next. The signal does not leave. Signals do not leave. They wait. They wait and they get louder, not in volume, in specificity. The vague feeling becomes a specific fear. The specific fear becomes a small piece of evidence. The small piece becomes a pattern. The pattern becomes the day you can no longer pretend. And on that day, the line you say to yourself is the saddest line in the whole inspection. I knew. Not I should have known. Not I might have known. Just I knew. And the only thing you did not do was let yourself say it out loud. That gap between the knowing and the admitting is where most of the damage happens, not in the event itself. In the months you spent pretending the early signal was nothing. Because every month you waited, you also rehearsed. You rehearsed the small daily betrayal of overriding your own knowing. By the time the truth was undeniable, the wound was not just what they did. It was what you did to your own intuition while you were waiting for permission to believe it. I know what that delay feels like. The versions of you who knew first sitting in a room with the versions of you who would not listen. The checkpoint is not telling you to act on every flicker. Some flickers really are stress, fatigue, leftover fear from an old wound. The checkpoint is telling you to stop pretending. The flicker is not data. A flicker is not a verdict, but it is information. And information that gets stamped through without inspection always finds another way to make itself heard. so the practice is small. The next time the signal arrives, the half-second feeling after a sentence, the small wrongness after a normal day, do not file it. Do not stamp it. Just write it down. 3 words. 5 at most. The thing you notice that you do not yet have permission to call anything. I waved a signal through once. Stamped it clean. Told myself the same 3 sentences everyone tells themselves at this station. The signal came back the way they always do. By then, it was not a flicker. It was a fact. And the cost was not what I thought it would be. The cost was what I had done to my own ability to trust the next flicker. That is why the checkpoint does this work now. Not because the signals are easy to read, because the cost of waving them through compounds. If you do not yet have a place to put the small flickers, give them somewhere to land. Drift Inward is a journal that uses AI to read what you write and reflect the patterns back, including the ones you keep stamping through without meaning to. Sometimes the signal becomes loud enough to act on the moment you let yourself write it down once, plainly, without softening it. That is the practice. The ruling, you are not bad at trusting yourself. You were trained to wave the signal through because the cost of believing it felt higher than the cost of ignoring it. That trade does not work. The cost just gets paid later in a currency you did not realize you were spending. Your own ability to know. The checkpoint does not wave through cargo just because the carrier is in a hurry to feel safe. Slow down. Read the lamp. The lamp is on for a reason.